What if I told you that for thousands of years, sleeping 8 hours straight was actually unusual? Imagine waking up at 2 or 3 in the morning, not because of stress, not because of your phone, not because of anxiety. You simply open your eyes, fully awake, and instead of panicking, you smile because that's exactly what you expected. Now here's the strange part. Millions of people throughout history lived this way. They called it the first sleep and the second sleep. So the real question isn't why they woke up in the middle of the night. The real question is, why don't we anymore? Think about the last time you woke up at 3 a.m. Maybe you checked the clock. Maybe your heart started racing. Why am I awake? I have to sleep. What if I'm exhausted tomorrow? Within seconds, your brain turned a normal moment into a stressful one. But what if your ancestors would have seen that exact moment as completely normal? Let's travel back hundreds of years. Before electricity, before smartphones, before Netflix, before cities glowed through the night. When the sun disappeared, darkness took over. People had little reason to stay awake. So after dinner, many simply went to bed. A couple of hours after sunset, they slept deeply for around 4 hours. This was known as the first sleep. Then something fascinating happened. They naturally woke up, not for 5 minutes, not to toss and turn. They often stayed awake for an hour, sometimes even 2. During this quiet period, they talked with family, prayed, reflected, added wood to the fire, wrote in journals, visited neighbors, or simply sat in silence. Then, when sleep returned naturally, they went back to bed for what they called the second sleep, lasting until sunrise. It wasn't considered insomnia. It wasn't considered a sleep disorder. It was simply life. And this wasn't some rare custom from one isolated village. Historians have found references to first sleep and second sleep across Europe, Africa, the Middle East, and parts of Asia. Old diaries mention it, medical texts describe it. Even literature casually refers to it, as if everyone already understood what it meant. No one had to explain the phrase "after my first sleep" because everyone knew exactly what it meant. So, if this pattern was so common, what changed? The answer wasn't biology, it was light. For most of human history, the sun controlled our schedule. When darkness arrived, our brains released melatonin. Our bodies slowed down naturally, but then came candles. Later came gas lamps, then electric lights. Suddenly, humans could turn night into day. Factories stayed open longer. People worked later. Entertainment stretched into the evening. Society slowly compressed 2 natural sleep periods into one long block. Our clocks changed, even if our biology didn't completely keep up. Here's something even stranger. Researchers studying people without artificial light found that many naturally drift toward a segmented sleep pattern after several weeks. Without phones, without streetlights, without late-night screens, the body sometimes begins splitting sleep on its own. It's almost like an old operating system quietly trying to reboot. Now think about modern life. You spend all day under artificial lights, then you stare at bright screens at night. You finally crawl into bed, hoping your brain will instantly switch off. But your brain doesn't work like a light switch. It works more like a sunset, and sunsets can be rushed. Have you ever noticed how some of your best ideas appear late at night? Or why your mind suddenly becomes philosophical when the world is silent? That middle period between 2 sleeps may have created something unique, without constant noise, without endless notifications, without pressure to produce. People had uninterrupted time to simply think. Imagine an entire civilization regularly spending an hour alone with their thoughts every single night. No scrolling, no emails, no breaking news, just silence. Today, silence often feels uncomfortable. We reach for our phones within seconds. The average person would rather consume someone else's thoughts than sit quietly with their own. Maybe that's why waking up at night feels frightening now. Not because we're awake, but because we've forgotten how to be still. Now, this doesn't mean everyone should intentionally split their sleep into two parts. Modern work schedules don't make that easy, and continuous sleep is healthy for most people. But here's the important distinction. Occasionally, waking up during the night doesn't automatically mean something is wrong. Sometimes the anxiety about being awake causes far more damage than being awake itself. Your mind begins calculating hours. If I fall asleep now, I'll only get, the rest. The pressure itself keeps you awake. Ironically, the harder you chase sleep, the faster it runs away. Our ancestors didn't fear those quiet hours. They accepted them. And acceptance may have been the secret. There's another lesson hiding here. Human beings are incredibly adaptable. What feels completely normal today might seem bizarre to someone living 500 years ago. And what seemed perfectly ordinary back then now sounds almost unbelievable. We often assume that our modern habits are the way humans have always lived, but history keeps reminding us they're not. The way we eat, the way we work, the way we socialize, even the way we sleep has changed dramatically in just a tiny fraction of human history. So the next time you wake up in the middle of the night, before convincing yourself that something is broken, remember this. There was a time when millions of people would have smiled, turned over, and thought, the first sleep is over. Maybe the question isn't whether ancient humans slept differently. Maybe the question is, how many other parts of being human have we forgotten without even realizing it?